Hello and welcome to episode 3 of the Meeples Miniatures Miniature Review Show. Today I'm going to be looking at one of the blister packs from Warlord Games Pike Shotte Range, which is their range of 28mm figures for the English Civil War. Specifically, we're looking at the Command Group. Now, if I remember rightly, the Pike Shotte range of figures was officially launched at Salute last year, and although the majority of the range is in the form of plastic box sets for most of the troops, quite a bit of the accompanying accessories are actually in metal, and so one of which is this command pack. So as you can see, it comes in a fairly standard blister pack, and the pack contains 4 figures. Let's look at them in a little bit more detail. First off, we have the officer. Now this is the only multi-part figure in the pack. He wields a rather impressive spear, and apparently this particular figure is lifted from an illustration from Wagner's 30 Years War book, page 116 to be exact. Well, according to Warlord's information on the figure anyway. And is aimed at being an officer in the early armies of the English Civil War, and is suitable for either a royalist, parliamentarian, or even a Covenanter army. I think you can see here, very finely detailed figure. Lots to work with from the painting point of view. There's very little in the way of flash or mould lines to worry about, but it does have an issue which I'll come back to later. Next up we probably have my favourite figure of the pack. This is a sergeant wearing a bergonet and shouting, armed with a polearm. Again, another very highly detailed figure. Some very nice detailing here. Again, typical of the sculpting quality of the entire set. Very deep detail, so a classic 28mm figure when it comes to painting. You know, there's lots to work with here. I particularly like the facial expression. A couple more cleaning up issues on this one, especially with regards to run-offs. This particular figure did tend to get quite messy around the top of the halberd, but a nice dynamic figure, I think. Next up we have a drummer, which was very common to have one or more drummers in a unit at a time. Here we see again another example of the excellent sculpting quality that these particular figures have. As we look around the figure, you can see again more excellent detailing. Lots again for the figure painter to pick up on. And then finally we come to the Ensign, classically dressed in a cassock, sculpted with a large metal flag. And that's actually the reason why this particular photo is pictured to me holding the figure. Basically because the figure cannot stand up on its own. With its base, it is simply too top heavy. That said, again, it's a nice enough figure, very well sculpted, nicely detailed, good facial features again. So on the face of it, a pretty decent pack. Now when it comes down to price, this particular blister pack is priced at £5, which is obviously £1.25 a figure. These days, especially for a command pack, I think that's fairly average. So not at all badly priced. Okay, so let's have a look at what I think is the one major problem with this set, and it's best illustrated by the Ensign. Here we see a close-up of the Ensign, and this is the figure as it came out of the box. As you can see, the sword is quite badly bent. It's actually a bit of a problem trying to get it back into a correct shape because it's so closely moulded in with the flag. But this is actually indicative of the one issue I have with this pack. Nothing to do with sculpting, it's all to do with the alloy it's cast from. The alloy is actually very soft, very easily maneuverable with the fingers, and especially with the fact that you've got some long weapons, what with both of the officers carrying polearms. I mean, that long spear, you may have noticed, there's a kink in it. I think best illustrated by this shot from behind. And simply because of the softness of the metal, it's actually quite difficult to get everything completely straight. And then you have to be really careful when you store it and play with it, that the figures don't get bent. And as a secondary issue of this, these figures generally seem a little bit more messy. As far as that coming out the casting is concerned, there's a bit more cleaning up to do on these. Again, not necessarily flash issues, but certainly lots of tags, run-offs, etc. So, my overall impression of this pack, on the whole, pretty good. I mean, here we see painted examples off the Warlord website. You know, as you can see, they can be painted to a very good standard and look very nice. My only other issue at this point is, will this pack actually look out of place when compared to the command figures that come in the plastic sets? Why do I say that? Well, I suppose The biggest difference is with the Ensign. It's an interesting choice on Warlord's part for this command pack that the Ensign is carrying a metal flag. All the flags in the plastic sets for the units are paper. So I think this particular figure has the potential to stand out like a sore thumb. I can certainly see the desire for the flag to be a bit more dynamic. As we can see, it's creased, starting to billow in the breeze. And that's an effect that is a lot more difficult to do with paper. But again, this whole metal flag issue does cause its own problems with the figure being tremendously top heavy, as I mentioned earlier. So it's certainly a pack that's worth looking at if you want something a bit different for your Pike Shotte units, especially if you're using multiple packs of the infantry. It's certainly worth replacing at least one command group with this set. As far as availability is concerned, I would imagine that all your local stockists that carry the Warlord Pike Shotte range, it shouldn't be too difficult to get a hold of. But obviously you can always order them direct from Warlord Games themselves. That's www.warlordgames.co.uk. Well, that's all I've got time for this time. Thanks for watching. Hope you found it useful. Take care, and I'll speak to you soon. Bye.